Welcome again to Lakeshore Focus, a weekly show highlighting the key issues, important events, and interesting people in our region. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick. The recycling industry has grown complex. Our local municipalities and private businesses have active recycling operations. Here to help us understand what is going on are Steve Dykstra, who is the president of Metro Recyclin, and Neil Samahon, who is the CEO of Metro Recyclin. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Man, I practiced it for quite a while. So I've got to ask you, because, well, not ask you because you already told me this. Your family is Germany and Sri Lanka, right?
Correct, yeah. My father was from Sri Lanka and my mother from Germany. Yeah.
And you were born in?
London.
In London. So you're kind of an international guy.
A little bit.
Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah.
I love to point out that we have this diversity, in our region, because we have so many people from different parts of the world and who have backgrounds in different places. So, and I'm going to get back to how you got into this industry, because I know how Steve got into this industry. It's in the blood, right? Is this true?
That's right.
So, Dykstra is?
Dutch.
And everyone knows that the Dutch are in the waste industry.
Correct.
Does everybody really know that?
I think in this area, I think it's well known, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So has your family been in this industry for how long?
My father started in the waste industry in the late 60s, early 70s. Had one of the first companies that sold to Waste Management when they first were taking companies public. And then we worked together through the early 80s and 90s and built a garbage company in Blue Island, Illinois called Great Lakes Disposal. That was sold then in 1997, again to a public company, and then we kind of took over Metro Recyclin and are doing what we're doing today.
Okay,
So.
and we'll get into what you're doing today here in a little bit, but it's just kind of interesting because we have a large Dutch population here in the south suburbs and in northwest Indiana. Mm-hmm. And so your dad got into the business in the 60s. Was your family in the business before that even?
No, he kind of started it with his brother-in-laws then in the 60s, late 60s. So.
Okay. So the current business that you guys work together in, you're really in kind of the buyback side of this. Is that a good way to describe that, Neil?
Yes.
So what does that mean, you're in the buyback side of recycling?
We operate facilities where people that want to recycle various items would bring the material to us, which then we purchase. Most everything that we accept and take is items that we would purchase from the public. Be it a refrigerator, like you mentioned, aluminum cans, though a lot of people put that in their blue bins, it's something that we will pay for if you bring it to our facility. Newspaper, virtually anything metal. We do take paper, a little bit of plastic, more in the lines of PVC.
Okay. When you say you take plastic, that doesn't mean you take credit cards. You guys are actually giving the money back, right?
We're paying you to recycle, absolutely.
Okay. So let me ask you, Steve, you have 3 locations?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and those are?
Blue Island, Illinois,
okay.
Griffith, Indiana, and Valparaiso, Indiana.
Okay, and those are really buyback centers?
Correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is the recycling industry basically down into kind of the buyback people and the local municipalities that are operating their own recycling? And then I guess there's probably the industrial waste people too, right? Is that kind of the 3 big pieces, Neil?
Right, and then private haulers, private garbage companies.
Okay.
Similar but different. In fact, one of our, campaigns, advertising, really is think outside the blue box. People have the avenue to get rid of their recyclables, certainly by taking the items to the curb. What we offer is much more. There's much more to recycle than just what's being put in the containers. Certainly, you're not going to put a refrigerator container or your set of dumbbells that you're done with and want to get rid of. These are all items that you
those aren't your relatives. You're talking about the dumbbells.
No, we're talking the metal ones. But we have the outlets, that you can bring that material to us and again get paid for, but not necessarily items that are going to go into the container for your typical recycling.
How much has this whole industry changed over the past 20 years, Steve?
Well, it's interesting how you started the piece about you and your family in the 80s. That's really how Metro Recyclin was started. My father being in the waste industry, the municipalities at that time, recycling was really coming to the forefront. And they knew they had to do something. So really Metro was started for the city of Blue Island to bring their curbside recycling products to us, same with the town of Munster. So that's really how Metro Recycling was started. Since that time, really then the waste haulers in the area, besides picking up the refuse side of it, took over and started doing the blue box, if you will.
So you guys were working with the local governments?
We were working for the municipalities at the time, but see, now they've outsourced all of that to an independent contractor, the independent waste haulers in the area, and they're really doing it all. Okay, so Metro Recycling really has then morphed itself, if you will, to the buyback side. We always were a buyback side, but it was really, now it's totally morphed into scrap, and we still take some paper and plastic and some of those products, but the waste haulers have really gotten a lot of that curbside, but there's still a segment of the population and things in the recycling stream that they don't deal with. So if you're looking...
Like what? What don't they deal with?
Well, like the dumbbells, the vinyl siding off your house we take and pay you for, aluminum siding. So there's a lot of products that are attached to your home. If you really start looking around, you throw your pot and pan away, it's stainless or it's aluminum.
So does that feel like, Neil, does that mean local government is a competitor? In the true sense of business?
Not really, but in a way, yes, right? We do compete a little bit for some of what's in the blue box. We don't necessarily go after the milk jugs, the detergent jugs. But the only thing we compete on, whether it's the private haulers or the municipalities, might be the aluminum cans, the tin cans. And that's about it. Really everything else is the much larger items, the more difficult things. Again, you're not going to tear down the siding off your house and then put it in your blue bin. So in that sense, we're not competing with municipality. In fact, we probably help, not probably, we do help municipalities, obviously. They're all geared towards trying to increase within their counties the level of material that's being recycled. Facilities like ourselves give them the tools within the counties, within the towns, to help reach those levels because we're offering so much more than can be put in the containers.
So how volatile is this industry? Are the prices changing all the time? Because you'll hear the municipalities say, we're collecting everything, but we can't get any money for it. So, I mean, if that's really the case, you guys are kind of in a bad spot.
Good and bad, right? I mean, one of the first things I do when I get to the office in the morning is turn on a screen that is showing me commodities prices. We're very much tied into the commodities markets. Every time we buy a single pound of copper or aluminum, we're exposing ourselves to risk. So I have to make sure that we're in tune with the markets, either hedging what we purchase or when it comes to sell, that we're maximizing what we can. But very much we're exposed to the the fluctuations in the market constantly.
So you're the business owner here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how nervous does this make you? How much sleep do you lose over being in business where the prices go like this?
I sleep okay, but I mean, when you are in a cyclical business, you have to, when times are good, you keep your debt where it should be, and you know that there will be a time when the cycle goes the other way, and actually right now we're kind of in a little bit of that time. Volumes are down, margins are shrinking, but in that we've prepared for that. We know that's our business, and you weather the storm.
So have you seen some of your competitors not weather that storm? I mean, have some come and gone? Or is it that are they still staying around without naming names? I mean,
right now in our industry, there are some competitors going out of business that have put bigger infrastructure in than us. Shredder capacity. Shredders are machines that shred our metal. Mm-hmm. So people that we sell some of our stuff to have over leveraged themselves, and there are people right now going out of business for that because of the way things are.
Business is just tough, period. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But I mean, this is an industry that's really is quite interesting, and people hear about this much about it. Now, I know, Steve, when I ask you, every time I talk to you about this business, you always say, don't ask me these questions because Neil's the real brains behind everything here. He's the one who knows. What's he saying about you every time he says that? Besides complimenting you.
Well, I think he has confidence in what I do. I've been with the company for 20 years, and I think over that time I've proven, my worth, I guess. And we have very similar mindsets, I guess, in a lot of ways in operating the business. On a larger frame, but in essence, he said, do what you need to do to run the business. Is what I do.
Now, you were telling me outside the studio before we came in here, and we do a lot of shows talking about jobs and how people get into jobs and so forth. I mean, you started at the bottom in this, evidently.
One step above, right?
Okay.
This goes back to when his family still owned Great Lakes Disposal, and they had Metro Recyclin. Somebody that, a common person that we know, knew that they were looking for someone to run one of their yards. At that time, it was the facility that we had in Munster, which has since moved to Griffith. That person also knew that I was, prepared and looking to make a move in jobs, and that's how we kind of connected. And then started running one of the facilities again in Munster. And I think it was 2 or 3 years later, as a change occurred, they asked me if I'd be interested in running the company. And from that point forward, I just kind of ran with it,
Cool. What do you like about this industry? What do you like about the recycling industry?
That while it's cyclical, it's also there every day. There's always something on the street that's getting picked up. There's always a customer. We're not tied to just one big industrial customer. We're tied to the home owners of Lake County and Porter County, Indiana, and there's a lot of those. So as we get our message out about what our business does, I think, we pick up a customer every day. So it's always there.
Well, let's talk about the stuff that's just laying on the street, because I recently was looking around in one of my garages for something, and I swear that somebody has come in and stole this giant piece of metal that I had saved for some reason. And I'm like, one day the door was open to the place, and the only thing that was taken out of there was this probably 200-pound piece of iron that I had in there. Like, what's up with these people who just come and steal stuff, and how do you guys deal with that?
That's something I'd love to talk about.
That's why I'm asking you.
No, absolutely. It's something that's very important for us. So we belong to an industry trade organization called ISRI, Institute of Scrap Recycling Industries. I'm actually a board member here of the Indiana chapter. Within that as well, I sit on a committee on a national level, which is the material theft working
So this is
group.
near and dear to your heart. Okay.
This is, because this is a huge problem. So over the course of last 2014, probably last 12 years, 10 years or so, with such a high demand on commodities, recyclables in general, the value has gone up considerably. It took a dip in 2008 along with everything else, but the value is relatively high. Problem with that, the price encourages people to steal some of that material,
Okay.
to cash it in, obviously. What are we doing? How do we deal with it? Actually, funny enough, this morning I was at the St. John Police Department with a group of roughly 20 detectives talking about this topic. It is a huge problem. A lot of municipalities are trying to deal with it. Certainly the legislators here in the state are trying to deal with it by imposing laws, which we have to abide by. The issue then becomes with working with law enforcement and trying to get them to understand that we are part of that solution.
Well, let me just go to the basic. I show up with this 200-pound piece of gigantic cast iron thing that I had, and I come in and bring it to your place. How do you even know I own that or don't own that?
Well, and that's part of the problem within the industry, is we don't necessarily know, but with the laws the way that they are, when you come into our facility, we're going to ask you for your driver's license. We're going to scan that and attach that to everything you sell to us. Everything that you sell to us, we're taking a picture of. So you set something on the scale, we're taking a picture of that, attaching it to your driver's license. We're recording what type of vehicle you came in with, and we have that all on record. when you leave, when we pay you, you're signing a receipt that states that I am the rightful owner to, to sell this material.
Okay, now this is interesting because I recently was a customer to your place and all this happened exactly the way you said it. Now, before knowing Steve, I didn't know about this place, so I'm switching my loyalty to your place.
Thank you.
And the place I went to before did none of that, okay? None of that identification was done. So there's a lot of people out there still doing it. Is that where the people who've got the stolen stuff are going, Steve?
I don't know.
I know it's kind of a tough question, but I mean,
it's a tough question.
But I mean, if they're not doing that, I mean, it's not saying they're unscrupulous, but if they're not doing that kind of safeguarding, that's definitely where somebody who's got something illegal.
Well, no, I would say they are unscrupulous. I mean, we have laws. Legislators have put out what the laws are.
So there's so that by law they're supposed to be doing that?
By law.
Yeah.
So when a police officer comes to our facility and says, John Smith, and I hope nobody here is watching that's John Smith, comes to our facility or, asks if we've had that individual come to our facility, we look it up in our system without any subpoena, without any warrant, and we're to then give that information to
So is it
law
illegal
enforcement.
for these other places that are not doing it? Is that illegal that they're not checking that?
Yes.
Okay, they're supposed to be doing that.
They are.
How does the average, so hopefully people watching this show at least know, all the people who are buying back things are supposed to be following that simple procedure.
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So let me talk a little bit about the car thing, the buying back, because that seems to be a big advertisement all the time. We'll give you $500,000 for your car. I mean, what's happening with those cars, Steve? When if I got an old van, I can get rid of it at some point. You guys are probably going to get it.
Right. Well, it's
what do you
another
do with
segment
it?
of our business. We have a auto recycling yard in Valparaiso as well, that we buy those vehicles, both from the public like yourself or from an auto auction.
What do you do with them?
Well, for ourselves, we inventory everything on that vehicle, and then we go through a process of draining all the fluids. The Freon and antifreeze oils all have to come out of it environmentally. We try to sell some parts off of them to the general public, to shops, maybe to yourself if you're looking for a reduced rate on a part instead of buying it new. And then when we're done with it, they get crushed into stacks of cars and go back down to the shredder that I spoke of earlier that shreds it, makes it into recycled steel that then goes back to our steel mill. So,
Yeah. So is everything that you guys are buying, I mean, is it really getting recycled, or some of this stuff, does it end up going to the landfill?
No, everything that we take, short of, if you bring us a garbage bag, that has the material in it, is getting recycled. Our industry last year recycled 135 million metric tons of material. Took it out of the waste stream, and ended up getting reused, in some way, shape, or form.
So this industry, what do you think the general perception of, I mean, I had a couple guys on here recently who were farmers, and they came in all dressed up. It's like, okay, I gave them a hard time about, coming in dressed up. And I said, farming is a serious, serious business. I mean, this is the same way. I think people used to have this perception that people in the waste business, I mean, you guys get your dirty clothes on, you're out, shoveling and stuff and so forth. And this is a really complex business, isn't it?
it really is.
Why is it so complex?
Well, because you're in the commodity markets, you're in the world markets, you're exporting material all over the world. So, I mean, the aluminum can on the curb takes a long trip to get back into the cycle, right? So yeah, it's from watching markets in the morning to, it's not just about the guy that's buying it from you that is out in our warehouse. There's a long process to it, so.
How do things, and I'm assuming that maybe you still have some family over in Sri Lanka and Germany and these places, so how do things that are happening in those countries affect what you do?
Well, recycling, is global in the sense that the demand for commodities is huge, right? You speak of Europe, when their economy is doing well, they're buying more. China makes stuff, so when Europe is doing well, material in China. The demand for material going to China is huge because they're shipping a lot to China. And the same thing for us. As we consume more, China's looking for more. They're a huge importer, of material. So it is global in the sense that everybody's needing stuff, and stuff is typically made out of metal and plastic and paper, or it's needing to be shipped in cardboard. So there's a huge demand for cardboard overseas, when they need to repackage things. So as demand picks up wherever, the metal is finding its way to, various markets that are making stuff.
And so I assume, Steve, you guys are selling to a bigger market. I mean, you're selling into Chicago or some other place in bulk. You put it on train cars and it goes there.
Semi-loads, sure.
And so those could end up any place in the world.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we've exported material to China, to Pakistan. Most of the material that we ship is regional, Michigan, Wisconsin, Tennessee. I mean, it's in a general vicinity, but certainly there's material that's being exported.
We're getting close to the end of the time, so for each of you, what's something that each of you wish people understood better about your industry? Something quick.
Probably for me is that we are a key component in recycling. A lot of times people think about that blue box. We are so much more than that, and we offer that outlet to people to recycle, to increase their ability to recycle.
What do you wish
And
people
I would
knew?
say that every product that we take or are able to take, including a car, I've never seen in a landfill. So without people like us in our type of business, where would we be going with all of these products? They'd still be laying on the side of the road.
So maybe I got a marketing came for you. Good for the pocketbook, good for the environment, right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
Correct.
All right. Thanks for coming today, and I really appreciate you guys sharing this information, and
Thanks for having
I hope
us.
the market picks back up for you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. As I was thinking about today's topic, I began to reflect to a time I began to recycle. While living in the St. Louis area in the 80s, my wife and I participated in the voluntary recycling program in our community of Kirkwood, Missouri. We saved our cans, paper, and bottles. I don't think plastic was being processed then. We sorted the glass by color as we tossed it into the bins. I'll have to admit, I threw them like a major league pitcher so I could watch them explode and make lots of noise. It was also the smart thing to do because broken glass uses less room. It's more compact, right? Paper was separated by newsprint, corrugated, and glossy magazines. Cans were divided by aluminum and steel. The whole ritual of identifying the type of material and placing it in the proper receptacle was an education in itself. Oh, I forgot to mention that we had to remove the paper labels from the cans. Every action had a reason, and it helped me understand the concept of recycling. I'm not sure that today's average person understands what happens after you throw the mixture into one container and then let someone or some machine sort it all. Maybe they don't need to grasp how this works, but it makes me appreciate the industry and those who work in it. My other thought was about the impact. I like messing with math, so I began to conduct some rough calculations of how much, or should I say, my family has recycled in our lifetime. Since I acted upon this commitment in the 1980s, we have been doing it over 30 years. If we contribute a compressed cubic foot, 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inch block of recycled material each week, within a year, that's about 2 cubic yards, much larger. In 30 years, I calculate that mass to be 60 cubic yards. How much space is that, you ask? That's about half the capacity of a standard semi-trailer. If you consider that I read 2 newspapers and add that to the formula, my family easily fills that trailer, maybe even 2. That quantity has been recycled, not taken to a landfill. If you just look at our region of Northwest Indiana and imagine with at least a 250,000 households all recycling for that amount of time, we would not be taking 250,000 semi-loads of material to a dump site. That is impact. So the next time you are holding that can or bottle in your hand as you stand at the waste can, think of, for a few moments, if I take a step or don't put it in the blue bin or maybe even go sell it, I'll be making a difference. We'd like to hear your thoughts about our show. Are you recycling like you should? Email us at focus@lakeshorepublicmedia.org or reach us through our website, which is listed on your screen. Join us next week for another Lakeshore Focus. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick, saying make a positive difference in our world today.